Hello everyone, back tuning in today's second video. We're running on JMA Friday. You can find the video here on the homepage. Just scroll down the page a bit. It's underneath the link ads. This one takes us into the middle part of April, and there is a bit of discrepancy between the JMA and CFS V2 models as about what could happen as we're going through into April. I'll let you have a look at that in a second. Let's just have a look at weather next week to 10 days very quickly, because there is a chance of pulling down some colder air through the course of next week. I think it will turn cooler next week. The real argument is how cold it's going to get. Will we get a proper northerly coming down, or will it just be cooler and rather chilly? That's sort of the discrepancy between the shorter range models that we've got going on today. And I'll show you the detail on all of that in a second. Before I go on with that, though, just to say about the ads, there's links to articles on all the page. Just mention those. Have a browse, visits, and click through the links. If there's any articles that you're interested in, you'll be helping us to pay for our website. And thanks so much for doing that. So these are the GFS Ensembles. So this chart is the GFS Ensemble chart. Got the temperatures here and precipitation down there. Upper air temperature average, this red line here is a 30-year temperature average. We're going to be mild on average through the weekend inside of next week, but next week we are seeing a cooling trend. Looks like for quite a few days next week, actually around 5 days, we're going a little bit colder than average. That'll be our first sort of chillier spell of March. Been a very mild March so far. There are a few on some of them that are really quite cold, putting down genuinely cold sort of Arctic winds, but the general trend of the model is not as cold as those members, and it's actually closer to the 30-year temperature average. Nevertheless, we are seeing a cooling trend through the course of next week. Now, as we go through into the end of March, the start of April, that's this period just here, we see the temperatures beginning to recover once more. So I don't think any colder shot is likely to last more than around 2, 3, 4 days, and then it should start to turn milder. It also looks quite unsettled. We've got some rain coming up over the weekend, and then we've got more rain coming up there into next week. There's quite a few spikes going quite a long way up the chart, actually. So some of those spikes, rainfall spikes, are fairly heavy bands of rain coming through. So it is turning more unsettled next week by the look of it. So this is the temperature anomaly for the next week. This takes us from the 17th, 25th of March, and we're looking a little bit warmer than average in the south, still a little bit colder than average up in the north. Expect these to trend colder. Precipitation anomalies showing that it's wetter than average in the coming week. It is turning more unsettled. Here's the GFS for Tuesday, bringing this westerly through. Not overly cold then. There'll probably be showers or longer spells of rain. That low pressure slinks down across the country on Wednesday. It's on the northern side of that low pressure that we begin to turn the wind into the north. So as you get through to the second half next week, they start to dig down those colder northerly winds, and that is a proper northerly that's coming down with the GFS on Friday. That could well be bringing wintry showers to these parts of northern and eastern Britain. Snow is likely with that across Scotland, I would have thought. Then the high pressure sort of topples in across the country for the final weekend of March. It is looking cold with the upper air temperatures, certainly cold enough for night frost, probably cold enough for snow showers in the north. And then we set a bit of an easterly, actually, as we go up towards day 10. We've got this area of high pressure to the north of the country, and the winds are coming in from the east or even from the northeast as well. We finish up with the upper air temperatures on day 10. Not as cold as a couple of days earlier, but still a bit on the chillier side. This is the east end of UF. Again, starts unsettled through the course of next week with winds in from the west, but we don't get that northerly that the GFS is coming up with. So this is Thursday and this is Friday when the GFS is pulling down this proper northerly. East end of UF says no, and it keeps the winds in from the west or the southwest. And what actually happens is that high pressure just sort of intensifies this final weekend of March. That would be very pleasant and spring-like in complete contrast with the GFS. This one is producing fairly mild southwesterly flow across the country within an area of high pressure. Taste of spring there for the last weekend of March. And up to day 10, that high pressure is still sticking around. So it's really for the second half of next week that I've got uncertainty. The first half looks unsettled. Around Wednesday, we might start to move low pressure across the country. And then it's Thursday and Friday. Do we pull down the northerly wind that the GFS is showing very consistently? You have to say it is doing it consistently. Do we pull down that northerly wind, or do we get this area of high pressure building up from the Azores again and keeping things generally on the milder side? This is the GEM for Tuesday as well, bringing in these westerly winds, so it looks unsettled and showery. That low pressure again, it's sliding down across the country through the middle part of next week, with high pressure building in behind, so a little bit of a northerly flow coming down there, albeit again nothing like what the GFS is doing. And then the high pressure builds in behind those winds as we go through to the final weekend of March. We've got high pressure ridging through the country, keeping it mostly dry, and probably starting by day 10, which is Monday 27th of March, probably starting to introduce some milder air from the south. And this low pressure down to the south actually looks a little bit thundery, but it's probably a little bit overdone. So we've got a lot of questions to answer for next week, and I'm going to do a weekend forecast tomorrow, so I'm hoping that things are going to become clearer overnight. The first half of next week, it's clear cut, it looks unsettled, winds in from the west, and then we get through to the second half of next week. Do we get this northerly that the GFS is consistently going for, or do we just build in an area of high pressure and eventually turn things quite mild for the end of March? My suspicion is that the GFS has probably got this wrong. We've had a lot of failed northerly and easterlies with the GFS this winter. This is probably going to be another one of those. We may get something a little bit cooler around Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. I think the temperatures will drop next week, but I'll be surprised if things get as cold as the GFS is suggesting. It is consistent with this suggestion of turning it really quite cold next week, but I think it'll probably turn out to be another failed northerly cold snap. So my hunch is that the GEM and the ECMWF are going to be closer with this, but obviously I'll be keeping you posted, and we're going to start with weekend forecast tomorrow, of course, where I'm hoping things will become a little bit more clear cut. Okay, don't forget to check out GMA Friday. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.